Hello, thank you for being here today at the Jefferson Educational Society's live Facebook feed. Thank you to them for hosting me. My name is Penny Meckley Porter, and we have two mindfulness practices to be trying out today. So basically kind of talking about them some, but then also trying them out. Today we're going to be allowing thoughts to pass through as our first mindfulness practice. And the second is choose mindful moments during the day. Okay. So our first is about allowing thoughts to pass through. So this practice is about kind of noticing what happens in our brain and how much we tend to think. Many of us think a lot. Sometimes our thoughts kind of go through our mind, I don't know, maybe a little bit slowly. Sometimes they go through more quickly. Sometimes they go through pretty fast or can be pretty pressured. It's different depending on probably our mood, what's been going on in our life. Sometimes people say they can have 2 or 3 thoughts going on at the same time, which can be kind of difficult. Or our awareness can be on, the whole idea of multitasking. I guess today's not the day to talk about that too much, but multitasking is difficult for our brain, and we're not, basically research shows that we're not nearly as good at it as we think we are. So we're back to the topic of allowing our thoughts to pass through. The other thing about our thoughts is they can go slowly, they can go fast, we can have many thoughts at once. But the other thing about our thoughts is that we really can get caught up in the content of our thoughts. Well, of course we get caught up in the content of our thoughts because we are thinking. Well, here's this crazy idea that we are not our thoughts. So we have thoughts, but we aren't actually our thoughts. But we get caught up in our thoughts anyway. Another piece of that is we often think our thoughts are true, and many of our thoughts are untrue. The thought that I'm the worst mother ever when I scream at my kids when they were young. Well, I wasn't the worst mother ever. I don't know. Thought that so many of our thoughts are not actually true, but we get caught up in our thoughts and we follow our thoughts. So this practice is really about starting to notice our thoughts and allowing them to pass, maybe like clouds in the sky, the way that they pass, or perhaps like water flowing in a river. That's the one we're going to do first. So I'd like you to close your eyes. My eyes may be closed, they may be open, but I'd like you to close your eyes. First, we're going to check in with the breath. So with your eyes closed, bringing your awareness to your breath. There's the inhale and the exhale. At your own pace, you might be faster. Your inhale and exhale might be faster than mine, might be slower. But paying attention to what happens to your whole torso for the inhale and your whole torso for the exhale. With the inhalation, there's an expansion. With the exhalation, there's a contraction. So you're just tuning in to your whole torso, your whole chest cavity with the inhale and with the exhale. Noticing that movement. And how it feels. Okay, so now we're going to do the river part of this meditation, allowing the thoughts to go, allowing them to pass, allowing them to flow. So again, with your eyes closed, noticing your thoughts as they happen. So maybe in this moment, you're not having a lot of thoughts. If you're not, that's cool. Some of us are having thoughts, and we certainly can be aware of when we're so caught up in thoughts and our thoughts are really moving and churning, going from thing to thing, maybe bouncing around. But for me, that idea of churning, when I picture my thoughts in a river, I picture a swollen river, the kind where it's kind of like churned up because there's been a lot of rain recently, and maybe you see logs in there and stuff kind of passing by. That's when I really want to be aware of this meditation. So let's say your thoughts are kind of churned up, a lot of thoughts, things are really moving kind of fast and hard. And so picturing yourself kind of caught up in the river, hopefully you're not drowning, but just kind of caught up in that river of thoughts. Things are coming fast, maybe kind of furious, and there it's all happening. It can kind of feel like all the thoughts are happening to me, as if I don't have any impact over those thoughts at all. No impact, no influence. All these thoughts are just happening, coming so quick. But picturing that river, maybe you're in the river, maybe not, but if you're in that river of thoughts, I'd like you to climb up onto the riverbank, however that happens. We don't have to get caught up in how that happens. But I want you to be sitting on the riverbank. Your feet are not in that water. Your toes aren't in that water. You're sitting up on the riverbank and you're noticing that river of thoughts flowing past. Noticing the river of thoughts flowing past. And allowing the thoughts to flow by. Meaning that we don't have to follow every single thought. We can have thoughts and we don't have to follow them. I'm not saying it's easy. So now you're sitting on the bank of the river, and you can do this throughout the day, and you're noticing the thoughts in your mind without getting caught up in the thoughts. Maybe you do get caught up in the thoughts, but then once you realize, you let go of that thought and you reposition yourself on the riverbank as an observer. Letting go of the thoughts, allowing them to be, allowing them to flow away. For those of you for whom the riverbank analogy isn't resonating, some people like the idea of the thoughts being clouds in the sky. So the clouds are there. Think of a day where, the clouds are kind of like all kind of formed separately. And the clouds are there. And so we can start to picture our thoughts in that same way. It could be a thought about my kids. It could be a thought about lunch. It could be a shameful thought about eating too much or not being a good enough daughter, not being a good enough mother or wife, not being a good enough worker. I can have the thought and I can let it go. I don't have to go down. Oftentimes thoughts are like attached to like rabbit holes. I don't have to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not saying it's always easy, but I can notice the thought go by. And then I can wait for other thoughts. I can notice other thoughts go by without kind of getting caught up in the rabbit hole way that they can be sometimes, especially if I'm upset. Noticing the thoughts as they come, allowing them to go as best as you can. Noticing the next thought as it comes. Maybe they come slowly, maybe they come quickly. But letting go of the thoughts when you notice that you've gotten caught up in them. Coming back to your breath, noticing your body, your breath. And for me, that's part of what I do when the thoughts come fast and furious. I can come back to my body is another strategy, right? Sitting on the bank of the river. Some days that works pretty well for me. Noticing my thoughts like clouds passing through. Some days that works. Some days I forget about all of this. I don't notice it at all. And some days I come back to my body, whether it's my breath, my legs sitting on a chair, my feet in my shoes, my hands. It's another strategy I use to come back to my body and not follow my thoughts all of the time. So opening your eyes if you want to. I do want to let you know that this idea of observing our thoughts to me has always been a very advanced idea. Like I could start to listen when people were, kind of guiding me to do this. But the actual idea of observing my thoughts without following every single darned one of them has been difficult for me. So maybe it'll be difficult for you. Maybe it'll be an easier kind of idea. But for me, I've always struggled with this idea. I'm a little bit better at it than I used to be. But we're not supposed to look at these practices as being good or bad. The practices are very valuable just in making the effort with these mindfulness practices. So the next one today is choosing mindful moments during the day. So I'll give you guys some ideas about choosing mindful moments, but we're going to have our eyes closed and I'll try to take my time so that you can be choosing moments during your day where perhaps you can be mindful. So these mindfulness practices are just that, they're practices. We don't always feel like we're very good at them, but over time we can get better at just being in the present moment without racing off to the future, without racing off to the past and our thoughts. And one of the ways to do this, really, is to see if we can be pausing during the day purposefully to notice a given moment. So now you can have your eyes opened or closed. But I'd like you to notice your right foot, maybe in your shoe, wherever your right foot is, noticing something about pressure or touch with your right foot. I'd like you to notice where you're sitting and the sense below your kind of bottom in your thighs, wherever you're sitting. Might be soft, might be hard. Could be warm, could be cold, cool. Bring your awareness to your shoulders. Just notice your shoulders. Maybe there's some tension. So right now we're noticing ourselves in a seated position. Closing your eyes. I'm wondering, what could you notice when you wake up in the morning? It could be your body lying in bed, feeling the pressure of the weight of your body in your bed, feeling your head on your pillow, feeling the covers covering you up. Perhaps they're weighty, perhaps they're kind of light. Maybe when you wake up, you can feel the air on your skin. As we're brainstorming about what you could be noticing, just kind of mindful moments. And so for me, I do want to let you know that I struggle to have the mindful moments last very long. So like last week, we did a first sip of a drink and a first bite of food. For me, often I can do the first sip and then I start to get caught up in my thoughts or caught up in not being too mindful. So if you struggle with that, just know you're not the only one. But what we can notice with these mindfulness practices are the five senses can be a great way to bring ourselves into the present moment. And when you're laying in bed, I'm not sure which of the five senses you're really using, except the sense of touch. Maybe there's a sense of smell kind of weighing in. Maybe a sense of taste. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Well, you could have your eyes open. So you could be noticing things in your room. But don't notice stuff you have to do. That's different than noticing the light. So let's give that one a shot right now. Maybe you can open your eyes, look at a wall, and notice the color. Right now I'm looking at a wall that's blue. Notice the color of your wall. It could be white. And then notice how it's all different shades of white, depending on the light playing on the color. There are areas that are grayer or darker. There are areas that are brighter or lighter. I'm looking at a clock. It has a shadow behind it. So right now we're just noticing the light on the wall and the dark on the wall. That's an example of mindfulness, just noticing something in the present. Let's go back to last week. We did mindful eating. You can go back and listen to last week's. That was the May 15th. We did mindful eating. When I do these mindfulness practices with the mindful eating, I guess I'm always assuming you have something that you really like. We can be mindful when there's something we don't like. You could, if you really want to be mindful, go buy some of those really something hot and spicy, or one of those super sour things that the kids like to eat. Or even, half a teaspoon of lemon, fresh squeezed lemon. And you picture putting that in your mouth. And you know you're going to have a response in your mouth. It's going to be super sour. When you eat something that's hot and spicy, maybe noticing whether the spice is on the tip of your tongue, maybe your whole tongue, maybe your mouth. How about your lips? For me, it gets bad when it's on my lips. What about wasabi? Have any of you eaten that wasabi, which is that, a horseradish, an Asian horseradish? The wasabi, you can actually feel it if you get a big piece of it, I think in your sinuses. So I don't know, it's all an excuse to be mindful, just noticing. Let's say you go into the kitchen. Perhaps you're going to wash the dishes. You could notice how you feel before you wash the dishes. If you like washing dishes, maybe you feel neutral about it or good about it. If you don't like washing dishes, maybe you feel dread, some kind of negative, more negative emotion. Well, we're not supposed to label emotions as good and bad, but I guess we all have our ideas of what feels good and what feels bad. Turning the water on, getting the water warm, feeling your hands when the water's cold, but then it gets warm. What are the things you can be noticing when you're about to wash the dishes? Or when you are washing the dishes? You can be noticing many things, including standing on your feet, whether you lean your elbows on the sink. Maybe you're too tall for that. So today, it's really an invitation to have moments during the day where you come into the present moment. Perhaps it's when I put my glasses on. I feel my glasses in my hand. I feel the arms of the glasses against my head. When I pick up my computer during the day, I can notice that first moment when I hold my computer. So I'd like you to be brainstorming, especially after this session, about what can be a mindful moment for you. Lugging something into the wall, opening a drawer and feeling, I guess it's a vibration. When you open the drawer, some drawers open super smoothly. Some drawers open and you can feel a lot of kind of bouncing vibration. So we've talked a lot about maybe visual mindfulness, physical mindfulness, where it's the sense of touch or sense of temperature. We talked a little bit about the sense of taste, sense of smell can always work. Other things to be mindful about throughout the day. Now, today we've just learned about thoughts. We can notice our thoughts. Maybe they're going fast. Maybe they slow down. Maybe we have a mindful moment and we actually don't have a thought for 5 seconds. That's a long time for me to not have a thought. 5 seconds. Maybe longer. We can also notice our emotions. We can notice our emotions without having to go down a rabbit hole of our emotions also. I might feel sad. I might feel angry. I could feel confused, overwhelmed, anxious, fearful. And how do we be mindful with our emotions? Well, oftentimes when we have an emotion, it jumps right into thought. It might jump right into a behavior like, I don't know, get up, fix something, yell at somebody, do something. What if I can just notice my emotions, what I'm feeling? Notice it in my body. Allow it to be without having to fully embrace it. If I'm angry, I don't have to go down the anger rabbit hole. I can notice that I'm angry and where I feel it in my body, because I do feel it in my body. So that today is basically, the first one we did was allowing thoughts to pass through. The second was choosing mindful moments throughout the day. And next week, I'd like you to come back, and you can't actually be telling me where you were mindful that surprised you, or where you were mindful that might surprise me. I mean, I've thought about mindfulness in the shower, washing my hands, with my computer, but I think there's many, many moments during the day where I would be surprised at the moments where you have found to be mindful. So see if you can surprise yourself, finding moments to be in the present moment, even if it only lasts briefly, or maybe you can extend it. Thank you for being here today. I will be back next week for another mindfulness, about 25 minutes. Thank you to the Jefferson Educational Society. Thank you to you for coming and being here. And my name is Penny Meckley Porter. I own Thrive Therapy Space in Erie, PA, and I look forward to seeing you back here again next week at noon, Jefferson Educational Society Facebook Live. Thank you.